Hello and welcome to today's education session on how to eat out, socialise and still achieve your fat loss goals. So a lot of people, when they are on some type of fat loss journey, often feel like socialising is a really big barrier to them. They often struggle to figure out how to eat out and still reach their goals of fat loss. And also when people are trying to manage their calories on a day-to-day basis, it can be quite hard when they're looking at eating out in regards to knowing what they're eating and how that's impacting their goals as well. So we're going to touch on all those different aspects today. So first off to know is you can still achieve your goals and still buy food out. So we have gone of an era where we need to cook and prepare meals from scratch that are really nutritious, that are all from a kind of unprocessed foods. We live in a real world now where a lot of us are very, very busy. A lot of people are working kind of parents as well, trying to share very busy households of workload and children's requirements as well. So it's just not feasible for everyone to have full control over eating in that household and do rely on some convenience foods. And also people do like to enjoy socializing. So going out for dinner, going out for drinks has become very normalized in our society. And why shouldn't you be able to enjoy those things? That said, as a society, our kind of norm is now for people to have a higher than average or higher than desired body fat percentage. And so if you want to be able to do the social norm of lots of socializing, eating out and drinking, will go against the grain in regards to reducing down your body fat and having a more healthier sized body, then something needs to change in regards to how much and what you consume when you are socializing. So just think and reflect sometimes in regards to kind of how you consume your food and drink now compared to maybe how you would have done as a child or as a teenager or as a young adult, maybe against your kind of different generations in your family as well. And you probably will very quickly see where your extra calories and therefore your extra kind of body fat has probably come from over the years, because we are eating out a lot more. We are using convenient foods a lot more, and generally they do come with a higher calorie price tag on them. But as I said, it doesn't have to be a choice of one or the other. You can do both very successfully. It's just about kind of being clued up to what to look for. And that's what we are going to touch on. So first off, let's look at kind of the impact of it on you. So on this chart, it shows kind of an average 2,000 calorie day kind of for 5 days a week. And then it has 2 days, which I think on this one, the Friday and the Saturday, where there's a higher than average food amount or calories amount consumed. This does look quite excessive, but actually in reality, this can be very much easily achieved, this over kind of eating. And that could be just a meal out where you're having a main course and a dessert. It could be a few extra drinks with some friends on a night out. It could be going to have a couple of coffees and a piece of cake at a work meeting. That can very quickly kind of add 1,000 calories, 1,500 calories to your day. Now, what that does over your week when you average out those kind of 2 higher days is instead of having a 2,000 calorie base, you then end up with a 2,500 calorie base. Now, if 2,000 was what we call our maintenance, so that kind of level of our total daily energy expenditure, and you're consuming 500 calories on average over that per day, that's actually weight gain or fat gain of about £1 a week on average. Equally, if that 2,000 calorie share on this graph was what was meant to be your deficit, and you thought you had a deficit of 500 calories, by overeating those 2 extra days, this brought you back up to maintenance. So you will no longer be in a calorie deficit, you will no longer be losing body fat, your weight will be staying roughly the same because your body fat is staying the same. So just 1 or 2 big occasions or bigger calorie consumptions, let's say, over a week can very quickly hinder your progress towards your fat loss goals. So if you are watching this and you're thinking, I'm putting in all the effort Monday to Friday, I've got it nailed, I'm having really well balanced calorie counting meals every day, and I've got control over everything, and I'm doing my steps, I'm doing my workouts, and I just can't see what's going wrong, but I do just very occasionally go out for a meal with a friend or catch up with someone for coffee, or I do sometimes at work end up going to the coffee shop around the corner for a meeting and having something to eat. They could be the very few occasions that have a big impact on the rest of your week. And that's something you to consider. Now, as I said, that might make you think right now, well, I can't do that then. I can't eat out, I can't drink out, I can't do any of that. But it's all to do with kind of the frequency of what you're doing and then what you're choosing when you're out, which we're going to touch on. So let's start on the extreme end in regards to big social night out on the drink with some food. So here's kind of, I would say worst case scenario, but it's probably not in worst case scenario. This could be a lot worse. So evening starts with a pizza, a little side of garlic bread, some wine. No starters, no main courses, no food to graze on, no bread, etc. So this could be worse from a dinner point of view. But already we're high on our calories, 1900 calories from one meal. That's probably more than your daily requirements for the day in one meal. You then obviously go on maybe to have some drinks. As the night go on, have some more drinks, some more shots in the early hours of the morning before your taxi takes you home, or you've popped into the local takeaway shop and had something that probably you can't even really remember eating, but you're ravenously hungry, you've been dancing all night, you've been up for hours, and you probably do want something to eat at 2 o'clock if you're still awake. And so that is obviously going to mount up a lot of calories. And then importantly, also the next day, then you probably wake up with a hangover, feeling very jaded, feeling very lethargic, craving carbohydrates because that's what your body does when it's feeling hungry and lethargic. And so instead of eating your normal kind of calorie controlled, quite nutrient dense meals that you might already be eating now as part of your kind of new lifestyle, you kind of revert back to kind of going out for a late breakfast or a lunch that's very carbohydrate based. Probably mid-afternoon, you have a bit of an energy slump, you cut some ice cream. Later on, you can't be bothered to cook any dinner because you're still feeling a bit lethargic. I'll eat some cookies. That type of thing will then really increase your calories on the second day as well after drinking. So your calories overall, as per these pictures, was like over 9,000 calories across those, I say 2 days, it's one evening and the next day. So I've added on to that, just so you can kind of see the gravity of this even further. Assuming, obviously, let's say this was a Saturday night out into a Sunday. On the Saturday, you probably still did have breakfast. You probably still did have lunch. You might well have had some snacks because you're not going out to 7 o'clock. So actually, your daily expenditure over those 2 days might actually be closer to 10,000 calories. And so when we kind of do the math and spread that across the 2 days, you probably are in a surplus nearly 3,000 calories a day on top of what you needed. Now, 3,500 calories extra surplus gets stored in the equivalent of about £1 worth of body fat. Okay, so you could easily over that weekend put on 1 to 2 pounds of body fat because you've consumed so much excess energy compared to what you needed. When you stand on the scales, you did on Sunday, it'd probably be even higher than that on the scales because the types of food that you've been eating and the amount of alcohol you've been drinking will create a lot of extra water retention in your body. So the scales are looking even higher, but that is a temporary thing, the water retention. The body fat will stay there unless you get yourself to a much bigger deficit afterwards. So that is the implications of a big night out. And I know certainly I've done plenty of evenings that look probably a bit like this. And so it does happen to normal people. This, you just might not remember all. So that's not to say you can't go out, you can't go out for your drinks or food. So let's look at a slightly smaller big night out. So this one still, it has dinner, still has a pizza, still has a drink at dinner, but the pizza choices is a kind of probably a thinner crust, crispier one with less amount of calories on it, dropping to one drink rather than kind of having 2 drinks at dinner. As the evening progresses, there's still alcohol in there, but they're choosing kind of Coke Zero or diet drinks as mixers rather than full fat ones. And there are some extra glasses of water in there, so it's not all just gin. There's actually some water as well. Important on this one, there is no kind of midnight snacks. So there's no takeaway visit, which obviously saves a good kind of 1,000, 2,000 calories. And on this one, on the next day, you just get up and get back to normal life. So you go out for a morning walk, you eat the same nutritious foods that you always kind of eat, you don't starve yourself, you just get some vitamins and nutrients back into you as per normal. Now, the calories are still going to be high here, but the impact of them is a lot different, okay? So again, based on the calculations, which you can read in your own time, you are still, let's say you were in a 500 calorie deficit before, based on this example, you are still in a deficit, it's just now smaller. So you're now in a deficit of about 1,000, sorry, mind that, about 142 calories instead of 500 calories. So you're still in a fat loss zone. over the week, all it's going to do is slow your progress a bit. And when I say slow your progress, it could be slowing it by 1 day. So if our bodies worked a bit like a robot, which they don't, if they did, and we had this 500-calorie deficit every day, and when you got to this Saturday and Sunday, and obviously you haven't had such a big deficit, all it's going to mean is probably 1 extra day of eating a 500-calorie deficit, and then you hit your pound of body fat loss, which you actually see on the scale. So obviously fat can be coming and going the whole time, but you just don't see it on the scale until it's jumped to at least 1 pound or at least half a kilo, whatever it might be. So this type of night out can be achieved while still losing fat without any negative implications. Worst thing is it just slows your progress ever so slightly. Now, if this happens every week, obviously it's going to slow the progress every week. If this type of night out is happening once every 3 months, which people in my era seems to be more the case, or once a year, might be too optimistic, is really not going to hinder your progress, and this isn't going to be the reason for you not succeeding. So let's look at some other ways as well that other social events, kind of your choice you make, can really impact your fat loss goals. So things like going out on a Friday night with your friends for some drinks. If you just go out for some drinks, which probably historically I probably would have done when I was younger, those calories, they're all right. If I have a slimline tonic, 420 calories, it's okay. But if I fell into the trap of doing what a lot of people do now, and actually it's always dinner and drinks, suddenly what would have only been a few hundred calories can suddenly go into a few thousand calories because you've added in the meal to it. And a lot of the time as well, it's not even one meal, it's kind of a meal and a starter or a main course, whatever it might be. And the longer you're out, generally, the more you'll drink as well. So those numbers can easily imbalance. At the bottom, again, there's some more pictures of pizza. People that do some infographics seem to love a pizza. Let's say you went out with a family day out with your kids at the weekend and you wanted to go to the local pizza shop. Depending on the type of pizza you buy, depends on massively the amount of calories in it. So you can double or triple some calories easy in one pizza, just depending on the size and the type. And just choosing out even fizzy drinks, whether you go for the zero ones or the kind of regular ones, can really add or detract a couple hundred calories from it. And reducing the amount of side dishes that you order, again, can also make a big difference. And then at the top here, I'll just move my face. We look at, let's say you're going to the cinema with a family or some friends or a boyfriend, whatever it might be. You can still have snacks. There's no reason to not have snacks. But again, you can very clearly see on these numbers that the choice of size of snacks can make a huge difference. Okay. Again, as we go down, if you are a regular in a coffee shop, and you have gone to a habit of regularly having a piece of cake with it, there are some very lovely looking cakes in the coffee shop, such as this one, which is Starbucks, but the calories are high. Now, there generally is always a lower calorie option. They just might not look quite so appealing. They might not be so prominent, but have a look around. So they sell like a caramel waffle here, which is 176 calories, which will still give you the feeling of kind of joining in, have something to eat while you're drinking as well, without having such a big price tag. And the size of your coffee and drink can obviously make a big difference. And the last one on the bottom I said in regards to kind of work social, so whether it's someone's leaving do or someone's birthday or some promotion or whatever it is, there's always seems to be an excuse for cakes in a workplace. And just moderating how many you have will make a massive difference on whether you stay in a calorie deficit or not. So let's look then at convenience. So buying food out and about, especially like say on a work day, under this kind of convenience bracket is very, very commonplace. And yes, we could all live in a dream world and we're always going to take our homemade salads that are all very nutrient dense in our little Tupperware pots and put it all in the fridge at work. That's a lovely idea, but a lot of people either don't have the time to do that, the patience to do that, the mental willpower to do that, or sometimes the facilities to do that as well, okay? Sometimes convenience is going to take over. Now, I used to work in an office, and I was stereotypical kind of person. I used to go to Tesco's around the corner every lunchtime, basically got a meal deal. And I thought I'd have a look at the numbers because now I'm in this job role, I actually understand stuff a lot more. I thought I'll look back and see what I used to consume. So the pictures at the top are what I used to kind of standardly eat as a meal deal, very regular. And I was shocked to see it's over 1,000 calories. But then I'm probably not that shocked because I used to choose my options based on value for money, how big a packet, how big a drink, how big a sandwich I could get, all within my £3 meal deal on Tesco's. And what I really got was a lot of food, but also a lot of calories with it. And I say a lot of food, it was a lot in regards to comparison to other meal deal options. But actually, I would be hungry really quickly after this. So it actually didn't keep me full very longer, but I just got a lot of food that I could consume it really, really quickly from that. So if your meal deal choices are looking like that, this can really be a big, massive stumbling block for you, but it doesn't have to be, okay? You don't suddenly have to go and go back to the kitchen and make all your own food fresh. You can just choose better choices. And shops like Tesco's have really, really improved their convenience options over the years. There's a massive push now to healthier eating. There's a massive push to getting more protein in your diet, and there's a lot more choice now, therefore, for it. So these three at the bottom just give you examples of meals that are all around 500 or lower in calories, and also their protein is so much higher. So I was eating 7 grams of protein. These are got ranging between 17 grams, which is already quite good, right up to 48 grams, which is a huge amount of protein to get in one meal time. So you can make better choices. A lot of these meals, especially that kind of chicken mayo sandwich one with the baby bell, and I think it's a protein drink that comes with it, that is going to keep you feeling full for quite a long time because of the amount of protein. And also that baby bell kind of snack pot, there's lots of different elements in it. That would increase your satiety and your enjoyment because there's just a lot more food to consume, and it will slow your eating process down rather than kind of demolishing some really palatable kind of crisp and a soft sandwich. So have a look when you are in the shops looking at convenience products. Have a look at all the individual data, so your calories and your protein, and try and balance it out. So yes, you get some enjoyment from it, but actually you're not going over on the calories. And I definitely would suggest trying to keep your drinks as lower calories as possible, because there's no reason that I need to drink orange juice every day. Is not providing all the nutrients I need. I'd be much better just going to the fruit aisle and buying an apple and drinking my way through that fruit juice. Okay, let's look at some other convenience options, because there is a lot of shops that said people now go to get their lunches. Now, let's look at this Greggs one. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say this is optimal for your health in regards to eating a bacon and sausage sandwich every day, but if you are going to eat a bacon and sausage sandwich every day, there is different sizes on offer. Please try and choose the smaller one if you're on a fat loss goal because of the excess in calories. Again, you can see the difference in the drinks in regards to the type of drink you choose, on how many calories you're getting through the liquid source. And I said I won't go through all of them, but as you can see very clearly, very similar meals can be very different in calories. So if you are looking for fat loss, and I say this really clearly because I don't want everyone to always be choosing the lowest calorie option, but if you are looking for fat loss and you know the calorie range you kind of need to be sat in to achieve that fat loss, you need to keep an eye on what you're eating, especially when there is something very similar to it that looks very similar to it with a very different calorie point on it. So if you are eating out purely from a convenience point of view, like we said, those work lunches, all that stuff, I don't know, you're on the road and you have to stop at the service station. If you're purely eating out for convenience, this is where I would say you want to be most strict and in control in regards to the calories you're eating, okay? So there's no social enjoyment side of it. It's just kind of needs must. It's like, let's get some food and give me some energy to keep going. I said, this is where we kind of tighten the belt a bit and try to stay on track the most. So some few things to think about is making sure you're choosing foods that are fit within your calorie target or as close to it as possible. Remember that healthy doesn't always equal low calories. So on some of those pictures we looked at before, it could be very healthy ingredients, but they could be high calorie. So and that can sometimes come down to the portion size and sometimes come down to the ingredient itself. So I always use avocado as an example, because avocado has such a high amount of fat in it that the calories are actually really high on avocado. And if you are trying to manage your calories, you might not want to choose meals with very much avocado in. Things like the sushi wraps as well, they can very quickly, especially depending on the amount of rice in them, really ramp up in regards to calories as well. So don't just look at kind of, is it a natural food source, but also what the calories attached to it. And the good thing about all these convenience products is they are packaged. They have to put the number on them, okay? So have a look on the packaging, see what the numbers are. Choose foods and drinks that hit these regular things that we are always trying to strive for in fat loss. So high satiety, high fullness factor, high protein, high fiber, high volume, okay? We eat foods that look like a lot, but actually have a smaller amount of calories, we are going to feel satisfied mentally and physically because we think there is a lot of food there. Our stomach feels there are a lot of food there, and that should suppress our hunger hormones. And then the protein is actually going to physically allow us to stay fuller for longer, so we won't then want to eat more itself. Your energy levels will be a lot more consistent with the amount of fiber in it as well, because it slows down the digestive system, so you won't want to keep over consuming. Okay, so always try and choose foods that are fitting into them, which basically is your protein, your fruit, your vegetables, and maybe some kind of whole grain based carbohydrates that have got the higher fiber content. Adopt some mindful eating practices. Now, generally speaking, if you're buying convenience food, that is quite often linked to the fact that you don't have time to make your own food. You might be in a rush. But adopting some of these mindful eating practices can really make a difference in regards to how much food you consume. So try to really focus on when you're eating and to stop when you're 80% full. Now, a sandwich is incredibly quick, especially ones that are like quite processed from supermarkets, like the one I used to eat, a cheese sandwich. You can eat through a sandwich in kind of 3 or 4 bites. It can be very easy to overconsume without realizing you've actually become full. So slowing down your eating and trying to stop when you're 80% full. Now, that might be eating the whole sandwich and not the packet of crisps. It might be you eat half a sandwich, eat some crisp, and then leave the sandwich, maybe for an afternoon snack. It depends, but just try to tune into your hunger, remembering there can be up to 20-minute delay between when you're actually full and your stomach signaling to your head, your brain, that you're full, okay? So if you slow down, you give yourself time for those two things to connect. Try to eat right distraction, so away from desks, away from driving, away from walking, away from scrolling through social media, because you aren't going to attach yourself to said, you're not going to recognize those signs and symptoms of getting full and getting the enjoyment. Try to focus on the taste, the smell, the texture, the enjoyment, and everything to do with the meal. So you are reducing the calories again to try and go back to only eating to your 80% full. And importantly, try to mentally take note of how that food is making you feel. So this is probably something you're not going to just do once off. So if you are, for example, like me, going to have a meal deal every day, and I can reflect back now and know this, but I didn't know at the time, so you had no knowledge on it. If I reflect back and realize that every time I ate one of those meal deals, I was still hungry an hour, 2 hours later, what I should have done, instead of just snacking 2 or 3 hours or 1 or 2 hours later, I should try to address the problem to start with and try a different meal and see whether that makes you feel more satisfied, more energized, to assess see whether it makes you feel lethargic afterwards or make you feel energized afterwards. All those different things. Try to take a mental note of it so you know next time you can try and improve it. You can try and choose different foods that might help you further. And also, when we're looking for these foods, don't be afraid to kind of combine and make your own kind of meal. So it's very easy if you go into these big supermarkets, they've got their kind of meal deal section, and it's very easy to go there and go back. But actually, it's also just easy to go down another aisle or two and just grab a few things that might also be classed as convenient, but you can combine them together. So it might be you go to where they've got their cooked chicken, either the cold stuff in the refrigerator or the hot storage cupboard, buy some chicken, buy a bag of boil in the bag rice, buy a bag of salad, ready-made salad, or some microwave vegetables. And when you get back in the office, you can just ping it in the microwave or just chuck it on a dish. And you know you've got a really well-balanced meal. And again, you control the calories because everything's going to be in a packet and you can scan it and check what you want. You can make your own sandwiches. A lot of workplaces do have fridges. So let's say, I don't know, you get a tin of tuna and some salad and you've got some tuna and salad left, you could always put that in the fridge for the next day. So although you might not have time to get this ready in the morning before you go to work, if you get an hour lunch break, you might actually have plenty of time to combine this into a meal at work as well. So thinking sometimes outside the box. And obviously, if you do go venturing around a supermarket, you will obviously then find a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables as well. A lot of it's already pre-cut. So yes, you might pay more money for it, but actually, if you're going to get the nutrients you want in, and it's going to actually make you do it without kind of the obstacles of not having a way of cutting it up or storing it, then just buy the pre-packaged stuff. So that is if you are eating for convenience for no social experience. Now, if you are eating out for a social experience, so you're meeting a friend, you're going out with family, you're going out with work colleagues, whatever it is, then I think it's a different ballgame. Now, the first thing I would say to think about here is think about what you want most out of this social experience. And this is why I will talk a lot about values. So what do you value on that moment in that time. So fat loss is obviously a value. Fat loss is something you're trying to achieve, but is it top trumps on this social occasion? Or actually is the going out and enjoying a really nice meal that's going to taste amazing, that's cooked by someone else, and have a really good conversation with your friends, or maybe actually do want to let go a little bit, get a little bit drunk, lose your memory slightly, and just kind of get rid of all the stresses? Is that actually quite important to you? And weighing up kind of what's most important to you at that time is really important. Now, it doesn't have to be you kind of remove the fat loss goal entirely. It might still sit there, but sit there in line with other things. And having an open kind of conversation with yourself in regards to where things sit on the pecking order of your priorities on this social occasion, then really help make your decisions on it. So once you've kind of thought about what you want to get at that social occasion, then think about kind of how the amount of food and the drink you consume is going to impact those things. Okay, so if you actually really just want to go out because you haven't seen your friend for 3 months and you really want to have a laugh and a joke with them, and you know they're going to be hilarious and they're going to make you feel better, is consuming 3 courses and 5, I don't know, glasses of wine over the evening going to add to that? Or would you get exactly the same enjoyment in regards to spending time with your friend, having 1 or 2 courses of meals and 1 or 2 drinks, and then maybe a couple of soft drinks afterwards? Could you get a similar outcome in regards to what you want, in regards to what you value, by changing things around slightly? Could you meet a friend, go for a walk, then go for dinner, or go for a walk, then go for coffee? Are the ways that you're still going to get the same outcome without the same amount of food and drink consumed? And by stopping and pausing and thinking of that, that can really help. Now, obviously, someone as well is going to be making the plans for the social event. So if you're the one that's doing the planning and organising, step back and have this conversation with yourself before you even invite your friend out, so that you're inviting them to an event in your head that you know already meets your values and what you're trying to achieve, without totally eliminating your kind of progress towards your fat loss goals as well. If you're obviously going as the person that's been invited to this event, obviously it's a little bit harder to kind of steer the course of it, but you can still make small suggestions in regards to how it might want to change, or you can just be in control of what you do on the night yourself, to still, as I said, meet the things that you want to meet off that one. Okay, let's look on further then. So what to choose, and we're talking here more in regards to food and drinks. Let's say you're going out for dinner, so what to choose and how not to come over consume. So as I said, so we're just going to touch on again, so we're going to choose based on our values. So if fat loss progress is still very high up on what you wanted to achieve, you're going to need to consider the calories of what you're eating a lot higher up the list here. If meeting your fat loss goals can kind of go on pause for a little bit, then you don't need to consider those things so much. So you can just go out and enjoy a night out, knowing back at this picture we look at the start, that actually if you just moderate things slightly, you'll just slow your progress. You won't halt or pause your progress, and you won't reverse the progress. But if you do want to still plow on quite successfully with your fat loss goals, these are the things that you can kind of put into place to help you progress. So a nice little tactic I would say on evening meals is try and choose up to 2 of the 4 of the following. So a starter, a main course, a dessert, and alcohol, okay? Rather than having all 4 of those things, just try and choose 2, okay? So it doesn't matter which combination of those things they are, but you'll still go out, you'll still socialise, you'll still hopefully feel like you're getting that same experience, but you're just cutting down the amount of different things you're going to be getting calories from. Next tip is always to have a look on the menu at the starters and the sides options. Now, yes, you can technically, let's say, eat a starter as a main course, and for some people that might be a good choice, but also it gives you a good indication of what modifications you might be able to ask. So let's say there's a main course that you really like, but it comes with some side dishes that you really don't want, or they're very high calorie. But you can see on the starter, they've got this really nice, I don't know, Asian salad, and you'd much prefer to have that on your plate rather than, I don't know, the buttered vegetables or something. You could ask for that to be placed in the same way that if you see on the sides dish that there is, I don't know, boiled new potatoes, and you don't want the chips, or you don't want the roast potatoes, you could ask for the boiled new potatoes without butter instead of the roast potatoes covered in oil instead. Because if you already know they're there, you know they're cooked, it's a lot easier to just ask, can you swap those things on and off? Again, as we talked about before, try and choose foods that are going to tick a lot of these boxes. So they're going to be high satiety, they're going to have high fullness factor, they're going to be high protein, high fiber, high volume, so that when you do finish, let's say, your one main course, and that's the only course of food you're having, you feel satisfied. You're not choosing foods that actually have such a small volume to them, which sometimes you get in quite posh, I would say, restaurants where everything's very small. Your head might look at that food and think that's not enough, I need another course. But also physically your stomach might feel like that's not enough, I need another course. Because when your hormones tell your brain that it's full up, it's kind of go more on the amount of food in regards to volume in your stomach rather than the calorie density of that food in your stomach. So sometimes said, if you can go for meals that have got more vegetables, more salads on the side, it's going to fill your stomach up, and visually you're going to think that you've got more food coming than you have. If you are obviously having 1 or 2 or maybe 3 courses of food, try to balance out your protein and your kind of nutrients across the board. So even if you're having, I don't know, let's say a starter, which is quite carbohydrate based, I don't know, something little fried dumpling or something, just then maybe still the main course, can I go for a more fibrous vegetable based meal there with a bit more lean protein because I've got quite a lot of carbohydrates already in my first meal, or vice versa. If you kind of choose quite a fresh nutrient dense main course, maybe you're quite happy then to go for a bit of a heavier carbohydrate based dessert. So that's your choice. Try to remember that your portions aren't changed based on your body size. So the chef doesn't come out and go, you're 5 foot, you're 6'5", I'm going to give you one portion that's half the size of that one. You need to do that for yourself, okay? So you have to have in your head, you understand your daily requirements in regards to energy compared to maybe someone that's on the table next to you, and portion your meal accordingly, so that you can stay on your targets, on your calories. Don't choose based on value for money, a bit like what I said in regards to the meal deal. I used to choose meals that looked like I was getting a lot of food for my £3, and that can be very easily done in a lot of restaurants or takeaways. Like, oh, get that meal because you get all this food for only this price, but also you might get all these calories for this price as well. So don't make a decision, as I said, based on value for money. Try to stick, and this is not me anti-ing carbohydrates, but try to stick with just one carbohydrate source per meal. So a lot of restaurants love to put on like side dishes of I don't know, garlic bread and a side portion of chips. I went somewhere the other day and I had fajitas, which already came with 3 wraps, which is quite excessive for me. That's like 600 calories worth of wraps. And then they're like, oh, and here's a side bowl of chips, which was probably another 200 calories of chips. Now, I don't need both, but they were there. Now, I didn't even touch the chips, I just moved them back away. But if you can order meals without exercise and try to reduce down to just one carbohydrate, and that could be you actually saying, I don't want the X food on my plate, please. You'll naturally bring your calories down quite a lot because the carbohydrates generally hold a lot of the extra calories within them. So it's just a nice little rule to try and follow, just have one carbohydrate source per meal. Again, try to have some really mindful eating practices. So it's harder when you're eating with people to concentrate on what you're eating, but kind of focus on it. Like, you're paying good money to sit there and eat that food, so you actually probably do want to focus on what it tastes like, what it smells like, and actually make conversation about it so you're getting enjoyment from it. And actually, if you're paying attention to it and talking about it, you probably will then notice when you're getting fuller as well, or when that satisfaction starts to drop, which often is the case. Kind of 80% of your enjoyment will come from probably about 20% of that food. Once you feel that satisfaction and enjoyment is starting to dip, that's when you stop. And then lastly, when you are eating and you're finished, hopefully with a bit of food left on your plate, if you've stopped at 80% full, physically make that plate hard for you to eat those last bits. So if you can get the waitress to clear the plate straight away, do so, or move to the side, or cover it over with a dirty napkin, or put the cutlery on top of the leftover food, so you can't just keep picking at it. So a lot of time people will actively stop, but then if the waitress doesn't come for half an hour to clean your plate, you then end up eating all your leftovers anyway. Okay, a few more things to go through. So in regards to preparing for, let's say, going out for dinner, I would, or any big social occasion here, try to plan your week in advance. So if you know you're going to have a really big kind of socializing weekend, actually, can you just deduct off some calories during the week just to help balance it out. So if you still do want to make progress on your fat loss goals, can you reduce 100, 150 calories off Monday to Friday, so that on Saturday and the Sunday, you've kind of created a little bonus pot of like 900 calories that you can overconsume on, and then your numbers still kind of balance out over the week. Rather than you suddenly just reacting at the end of the week to thinking, oh gosh, I've overeaten, I'm now going to starve myself, which we don't want to do. That also goes for eating on the day. So let's say you are going out for dinner. Please avoid starving yourself all day, thinking you're kind of banking all your calories for later. Because what generally happens, you'll be overly hungry, and you'll do like a lot of people do when they go to the supermarket and they're really hungry. They will overorder, overbuy, overconsume. So your body's just starving and it can't regulate itself. Okay, so eat moderately throughout the day. Try and eat some protein as a little snack, kind of only about an hour or two before you go. So that's going to help you feel fuller. So when you are in that kind of ordering process, you're ordering hopefully with your mind and not with your stomach. Try to be active during the day. So it's amazing what kind of going out for a walk or a workout can do to your mindset. So yes, physically, it might help a little bit with the kind of calorie balance as well, but also you can go into enjoying that meal knowing that you've already done something good for your fat loss goals today. And if you can plan ahead, have a look in regards to the menu so you know what types of foods you might want, because a lot of this comes down to preparing your mindset to make the choices. So as soon as you're in a group environment, you can either feel rushed and you kind of default to your normal kind of eating habits, which might not align to what actually you want to eat now. Or you might feel a bit of peer pressure that other people around you are like, oh, I'm going to have a starter and a main. Are you going to have one as well? And if you can already get your mindset around, no, I've decided there's nothing on the starters I want, I'm just going to have a main and dessert, or vice versa, you'll be a lot more confident to make those choices. And if a waitress comes over and they're a very good salesperson and they're trying to persuade you to have some extra nibbles while you're waiting, or an extra to try different dessert wine with your meal, you've already kind of planned ahead and you know what you want. So you're less likely to give in to that kind of peer pressure or questions posed at you. And afterwards, so whether this is the day after or the course of, I don't know, if you go out for breakfast and have a big breakfast, this is after that, or it's the next day or next few days, is try to get back into normal habits as soon as possible, okay? Normal movement habits, normal exercise habits, normal eating habits, normal drinking habits, the normal habits which are in line with your fat loss goals, okay? Now, they might happen by default at the moment if they're really ingrained in habits, or if you're still quite early in your fat loss journey, they might still take a bit of effort. And if they still take a bit of effort, more forward planning is going to be needed, okay? So if you know on that Sunday morning, you historically used to just kind of lie in bed to midday and then get out and just eat some kind of big stodgy carbs, and you don't want to do that, make plans at 10 o'clock to go out and go for a walk with someone. Get some food ready in your fridge so that when you wake up, you've got some food ready to go that you know is going to be in line with your goals as well. Think about fueling your body. So think about getting some nutrients, get back into your diet, because you probably haven't eaten the most nutritious meals when you've been out and the most nutritious drinks when you've been drinking. So just plow that food in, thinking about fueling your body. And going for that morning walk can be really good to clear your head as well. So a last few bits here in regards to what I like to call little reality checks. Chefs in restaurants make stuff taste amazing. That is their job. But to do so, they cook with a lot of oil and they cook with a lot of butter. So what you think normally goes into a meal, so let's say you're making lasagna at home and you've calorie counted it and you know it's 500 or 600 calories. If you go and eat lasagna in a restaurant, you can probably double that, okay? They're going to chuck in so much extra ingredients to make it taste amazing. So don't rely on thinking it's the same as what you do at home. Be prepared that probably most vegetables also come with some glazing. That could be butter, that could be oil, that could be honey. And if you want to reduce down the calories but still have your vegetables, just ask for it without the butter, okay? Be confident to ask for what you want. You are the paying customer. Next thing, calories on menus are only estimates. So I think they're amazing that they're on there because it can really help guide your choices, because it can be really hard to gauge what kind of calories are in each. But do know that most chefs then on the day are not going to portion things exactly to the recipe that they put the calories on, okay? So it might be they give it extra few chips. It might be that the steak that they cook for you has extra fat in it, so your calories are going to be higher. It might be that the additional sides that you've got with it, so it might even be the standard vegetables and standard potatoes that come with it, might not actually be counted on the menu. They might be down the bottom as additional calories that get added on as well. Remember, thinking things like sauces quite easy might not be added in because they might be sold separately. So how they put calories on a menu can vary. So unless you kind of really double check everything, those calories can be quite inaccurate. And also, a lot of people ask whether it's worth tracking calories or not when eating out. And I would say it's a case of this. If it's a one-off, so you go out for a meal once, I don't know, a month, really don't get worried about it, okay? Choose things based on the protein, the veg, and the fibre, and all that stuff. And the calories are what the calories are. I wouldn't worry about tracking it. It's going to detract from your enjoyment. But if it is something you're regularly doing and you're not getting the fat loss results that you want, then yes, I really would try and get some calories going into a calorie tracker. Now, big restaurants, you'll find most of their meals on a tracking device already. Small restaurants you might not find on the calorie tracking devices, but you can generally search for something equivalent. I always like to use Wetherspoons as a prime example because their menu's so big. So I don't know, if you're in a local pub and you're getting Hunter's chicken and it's not on tracking device, put in Wetherspoon's Hunter's chicken, you will get their one. It gives you a very vague number to work from at the very least. Last kind of reality check is remembering that portions have grown humongously over the last 20 years, which is what this photo picture shows. And so what you normally used to consume, what you think your parents used to consume, is very different to what you eat now. So it's kind of worked the wrong way around. Now we eat more out, the calories are actually higher. So it could have been the other way around, kind of the calories will be smaller in our meals while we're eating more regularly out and about, but they're actually the opposite. But that is why our society as a whole has unfortunately developed a weight issue, because everyone is consuming a lot more calories than they even realize they are, because the portions of those sizes have just got bigger and bigger every year. So if you are eating out, be really mindful in regards to the size and the type of your food, but that is not to stop you enjoying going out. But remember, it really comes down to what do you value most in that moment? Is it the food? Is it the socializing? Is it the drink? Does the food and the drink play a massive part into what you're trying to achieve from that social event? If it does, enjoy it. If it doesn't, find a different version. Hope that helped. If you have any questions at all, drop me a message in our group chat. Thank you for your time.